Hello everyone. Another tip of the week. This week I thought I would share the way I painted water over cliff like this painting, and what kind of tip the techniques I use when I recreate this. When you see the photo, there are a lot of white strips. The water fell down from the top of the cliff. But if you just copy the photo, it will look very stiff in your painting. So what I'm going to show you is how to take advantage of watercolor itself and recreate the illusion of water over rocks without any effort, and it looks vivid. Here's what I roughly draw for the shape of the cliff, but I'm not exactly copying the photo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create some mixture that it's pretty dark, but with some consistency of the pigment, so I can create rough textures. In the previous tips, I showed you how to create a rough texture with watercolor. So this is one of the ways to use it. So what I have is very wet, but loaded with thick pigments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the sideway of my brush and to paint the major shape of the cliff. And you see when I move this along, I have this strip of rough textures that automatically adds interest to the cliff itself. I'm changing the color a little bit, still very thick, and pull over and move my brush along the edges. And you see now I have some thicker paints that's created illusion of the cliff. Okay, and I'm changing the color temperature. I'm adding some cool colors to it. Okay, here are already the white dry space. The paper I left already start resembling the cliff with water falling down. So I'm getting a little bit more here, and I'm adding a little bit over there to see in the distance, and probably change back into the original colors. A little too blue here. So I'm adding one more cliff, okay, into the water. Okay, the water itself is actually soft. It will make the high contrast with the rock itself. Okay. Here's the top, and you see all these dry marks. It start resembling the sharpness and the hardness of the rock. And you see now I have plenty of white space. I'm washing off my paints and I give a touch here, and you see that's the wetness of the water that starts showing. The wetness, I'm getting rid of some white, but not all of them. And I'm touching, just use a clean brush to soften portion of the top and make the water look like it's flowing into here. Okay, so changing a little bit, changing the shape, make the shape it's more interesting. And here is a cooler and a softening into distance. And we only need a very few to suggest the water fell down. Okay, and you see here are the water falling down. And the bottom here, I'm also touching a little bit and soften out by using a different color. And you see there's no other tool. I'm just using my brush, twist and touch this dryness a little bit here and there, and it creates the illusion of the soft water. Okay, and now the rest is pretty much, you see, whatever is left is pretty much the wave and everything else that could potentially be there. What could potentially be there? It's the underwater rock that can still be there. So I'm making this one sticking out a little bit, touch here and there to make the sharpness not disappearing with all these soft touches. Okay, so that's what we need. That's pretty much it. Then when I do the finishing up, I'll show you how we make the illusion of water going down even more dramatic, and the illusion will be more satisfying. So give a little color change to the suggested ocean in the distance. Removing this photo. So give the suggestion of waves and the water more reasoning by touching upon the water. So I'm not really painting anything, and you see I'm not copying anything directly from the photo at all, but I'm giving the suggestion just using the character of the waves. And I see that's pretty much it. Then I will show you how we make a very few last touches and to make this spitting over even more dramatic. Now let's do the final touch to make a spit over more clear at areas that I don't have any. I'm changing the brush now. I'm using a nylon flat. This can be any brand. Those are very inexpensive brushes. So what I like to use is a flat brush. If you paint larger, then you need a bigger flat brush and a tissue paper and Kleenex. What I would do is I will pick a spot, and then I think it needs some connection and also make the spill over more clear. Say maybe here. Here is a big blob of dark color without any spill over. So I'm going to make my flat brush wet, but clean out without water, too much water in there, and find a white spot. And I'm thinking, the water spilled this way. And you need to wash this one off and use a tissue paper to get rid of excessive water in there. And now you see I did one more time over the same spot. You cannot go back and forth. It will make your painting look very muddy. What I do is pick a spot, then it's originally have a little bit of white, and then I'll connect it to the other white parts. Here's another one, little white spot. You could also use thing like a palette knife and such, but I thought this one, we already have plenty rough texture, so maybe we'll do some soft lifting. So that made a spill over from the top, connect it to the bottom, more obvious. But compared to the rough textures, it is soft. So I'm connecting these two, and you see this one is definitely, you can make it a longer one. And then I'll do this, lifting out. Of course, there's multiple ways you can do this. You can use white, just paint over it. I sometimes also use white just to add a little texture, but for this time, I'd like to have a little bit of softness. When the paints are still moist, it's what you can do to make this more like a connected and a softened, connected with the rough texture and still very convincing. Here's another spot. We can do one more here. Here's a cooler spot. One thing is about the spillover direction. You wanted to consider how the rock is formatted, and you want to do the way that it follows the rock's contour instead of go against. Otherwise, it will look funny. Okay, so that's how the spillover technique can be used. Similar way, you can do lifting from the bottom up. Use this flat brush. I usually don't use the round brush. It's just hard to do. And most of the round brushes are harder. I mean, a lot more softer than these nylon flat brushes. So do a little bit more here. But you see the contrast between the soft and the rough and the sharp edge of the rock. That's how this illusion is created. It's not to copy the photo in any way. And that will give your painting in this format much more interesting. So you can control the softness and how long it's connected to the other part, which part is connected, and there's a lot of happy accident results within this. So that's pretty much a tip of the week for creating the water spill over rock. Hope you found this interesting and give a try at home. Thanks for watching.